like I said, I was flying by the seat of my pants, trying to get audio ready. Let's do this. Hello, everyone. I'm Amelia Queen Llama, and welcome to the Themysciran Agenda, a monthly talk show dedicated to all things Wonder Woman. If you're already here, you probably know what it's all about. Yes, you do have a helmet, Comedian Heroes, but this episode 4, is dedicated to the Wonder Woman movie. I know it's not about comics, so it's a little bit divergent than what we've been doing lately, but I feel like now's a good time to talk about the Wonder Woman movie, because it's always a good time to talk about the Wonder Woman movie. So, and I've been wanting to do a review, but not like a written review sort of deal. So I just wanted to get that out there, and you guys voted for it as well. So, everyone kind of wanted this. So as far as, before we jump into like the main content, I'm just gonna go over kind of a brief summary and format for the episode. As always, I'm open to suggestions post-show. You can reach me on Twitter, and you can also comment in the chat afterwards. Different things. Leave a comment on Facebook, or not Facebook, on YouTube. Who's on Facebook? No one's on Facebook. Yeah. So the main format of this episode is I'll be analyzing the Wonder Woman movie, directed by Patty Jenkins, starring Gal Gadot. I'll just give a brief summary of the movie, talk about where the story draws heavily from in the comics as well as in real life, discussing those real-world inspirations, and then give my honest criticisms about the film, because I do have criticisms about the film after watching it a few times. I'm not going to go into too much detail about cinematography, film heavy topics, because that is not an area I am knowledgeable in. I will leave that to other movie reviewers who already have movie reviews out there. And then I'll just briefly go over my sources and kind of get you all ready. So, before we begin again, spoiler alert if you have not seen the movie. I know it's been a year, and if you haven't seen it, go see it. But I'm not gonna skirt around certain scenes and certain topics and stuff. So it is a spoiler review, so to speak. So, yeah, let's any questions? Anyone want to get a comment out there before I start jumping? Now's the chance. Oh, and as always, feel free to ask me questions, whether about the show, like about the content of the show, or other Wonder Woman related stuff, or just random stuff, and I will do my best to answer as I speak about the movie. So, Wonder Woman the movie follows Princess Diana Themyscira, a warrior princess from the mythical island of Themyscira. Her peaceful life is disrupted after a man crash lands on the beach. After learning of a great and terrible war, she embarks on a quest to save mankind from Ares' grasp before it is too late. Along the way, she will learn about the true nature of the world and face her destiny head on. Beautiful as Aphrodite, wise as Athena, swifter than Hermes, and stronger than Hercules, she is Wonder Woman. I have wanted to say that for like ever. I was like, that was like the first thing I wrote when I wrote like a summary for this movie review. Of course, yeah, feel free to ask them if they come up. I'm hoping that this kind of the movie review kind of springs up memories and like questions you might have about the movie that aren't film related, because I don't know anything about film. I'll leave that to my sibling Ace. So yeah. Long story short, the Wonder Woman movie is about Diana's first foray as the hero of mankind. It's her origin story. As far as just general impressions and just like my overall feel, it's sometimes hard to contextualize how much I love this movie. I've seen it. I probably haven't seen it as much as other people, but I've seen it 3 times now. 4 if you include me speed watching it last night and the night before, which isn't as much as one might think, but I'm not a movie rewatcher. It takes a lot for me to rewatch a movie. you know, even speed watching it again, there was just like scenes where I was typing and writing everything together, and I just had to look up and I had to watch it. And to me, that is a sign of a movie with a long life and a good movie. You know, I'm not gonna lie, I cried when I first saw this movie. I legitimately came out of the theater in tears, and all my friends made fun of me for it. They're completely justified and valid for making fun of me for it, but you know, it did in fact make me extremely emotional. And it still feels this kind of like fills my stomach with butterflies. That's how much I enjoyed it. It's not a perfect movie, as we're gonna find out as I do these criticism and discuss this movie. You know, it touches on all things important to the character, but it doesn't touch on everything that I necessarily like, you know, in her story. Thank you, Roy, and hello. I'm glad I'm valid. You know, in a way, the movie kind of came out when it needed to come out. We needed a Wonder Woman movie. Like, everyone was like, why don't we have it? And I feel like if it wasn't for the fact that we're having like the shittiest presidency ever, and there's just like a general like downtrodden feeling among different people, we needed like a hero that would lift us up. So really, it came at the right time in the right place. And you know, it was faced with the impossible task of meeting the high expectations of fans and non-fans alike. And somehow it kind of finds this like strange middle ground between it, where it's, you know, it's not perfect one way or the other, it's just right and just what we need. You know, the audience was definitely hungry for a female superhero and an origin story that was more honest than kind of what we generally go to the movies about. Kind of during my speed rewatch, you know, there's just those few key moments that really just capture your attention. And you know, it's the no man's land scene, and Diana sparing Dr. Poison, Diana choosing to leave her island knowing that she'll never get to come back. Like, those to me are those to me are the three moments, like from start, middle to end, that kind of like make this triangle that is the Wonder Woman movie, and just captures her. Yeah, no man's land is so good. Like, if they took out everything in the movie and just left no man's land in, you could still make it work. And so you know, that makes like the triangle that holds the core of the movie together, and really shows the compassionate defiance that Diana is as a character, and you know, against the status quo of like other male superheroes and origin stories. And it just goes to show that I really think Patty Jenkins and even to an extent the writers involved, who I don't necessarily like as comic writers, you know, Jeff Johns and Alan Heinberg, I'm not a huge fan of them as far as they are writers, but I think because they had Patty as like this captain of the ship, they were able to kind of navigate these waters. But those are like my, oh my god, this is the greatest movie ever, there'll never be a like movie like this again kind of general impressions. As we get into more of like the criticisms of the movie, you know, we kind of are able to, I'm able to give like a better sense of like my opinions of the movie, because I feel like you can contextualize your real opinions when you start to give like criticisms of something. But overall, as far as Wonder Woman movies could have gone, this one went really well. There's just so many things that they could have just not like totally botched, and it just establishes Diana in a way that I feel that other superheroes that are currently have existing movies don't necessarily have. She has like her own singular story, and she's going to continue to have these singular stories that I think really benefit the character. And I'm curious to see how Captain Marvel does, because I feel like it'll be the opposite of Wonder Woman storytelling wise. Whereas Wonder Woman is gonna, from my understanding, is gonna stay to like these singular arcs in her history, and Captain Marvel is gonna have to come in and exist within the Marvel universe, and to me that's interesting, and I hope that people kind of embrace both. As much as I'm more of a Wonder Woman fan than I am Captain Marvel, I hope both are successful, and that people. Okay, listen. I Okay, well, I gotta give a shout out to my fans here, shout out to the Marvel fans everywhere. How's it going? This is your Kurtz. Well, you have to bring up Marvel from time to time, but it's not. Yeah, it really does seem like there's a lot going on, so yeah, I honestly don't envy any Marvel, like any female Marvel superhero right now, because they have their own demons to battle, and Wonder Woman can just like keep riding the wave. Like, she's already crossed that line. So she has the easy part now. She can have like a nice vacation in her sequel, flirt with Cheetah, stuff like that. So oh, that's right. Like your whole whole focus has been on Agent Maria Hill. Yeah. Where has she been for the past few movies? I haven't really been paying attention. I'll pour one out for Maria Hill for you, Rory, for sure. So yeah, that's just general summary, my general impressions about how much I love this movie. You guys already know that. Rip indeed. That is true. I don't almost think about that. That is true. Yeah, hopefully we'll see Kate Bishop at some point. But it would be nice if they like did something with their existing female characters in their movies, not waiting several years for Black Widow. But at this point, I'm so over Black Widow that I'm just like, whatever. But guys, onto Wonder Woman, because I don't care. I honestly don't care about Black Widow. I care about Wonder Woman. Oh gosh. So the next part is I wanted to do like a comics comparison, because I feel like, how dare you? No, I'm just kidding. If you got questions about Black Widow, I know nothing about the character, so go ahead. Good luck with that. Yes. But yeah, I feel like a lot of reviews don't necessarily have the comics lore that they can kind of compare. So I just wanted to I wanted to discuss like the comic comparisons, where the writers and where Patty pulled from in terms of inspiration from the comics, because I think they pulled from a lot of different places and they pulled the best parts from those places to really make a good narrative. And I think that's why it was so successful. It wasn't just like, we're going to adapt Civil War, or we're gonna adapt The Dark Knight Returns. It was more like, well, Wonder Woman has a lot of different origins. She has a lot of different versions and stories. We're gonna take the best bits and we're gonna make this like mass that is the Wonder Woman movie. So while I believe like the clay origin, I wish that would have like stuck, and I wish they would have used it. I understand why they used this. That was weird. My mic is being weird. Okay. So sorry guys, got a little distracted. My mic has some new settings, so I'm still working out the kinks. But anyway, I enjoy the clay origin. I wish they would have stuck with it, but I understand why they used the Zeus origin, where Zeus is her father. It's because I wanted to pull from that classic Greek hero tale. It's a classic Greek story featuring Wonder Woman, essentially. There's the journey, the battle, the fall, and like the reemergence. and that's something all superhero stories, origin stories specifically, kind of pull from to really tell their first story. But I think it's even more prevalent here because Diana is Greek and they're pulling from Greek mythology, and they're just like, we're gonna take that concept and bring it to the full screen and people are gonna like it. And I think, I think they did that very well. So that's kind of just a general, but they had like the whole comics to pull from, which kind of elevated this simple classic Greek hero story to new heights. This movie is very much New 52 and Perez Era inspired, with generous nods to the Golden Age. I don't think it entirely embraces the Golden Age, simply because the tone of the movie doesn't allow for a Golden Age feel. But there's definitely influences, and there's definitely characters that exist, and the way they're portrayed in this movie is very much Golden Age on top of the New 52 and Perez Era, and some other places as well. Starting off, New 52 Origins is pretty obvious. Diana is a demigoddess. She's the child of Zeus and Hippolyta. Hippolyta hides the truth from Diana and says she was made of clay. So it's like this whole, she's grown up with this belief that she's made of clay, that she's magical, and she is magical, just not in the same sense. Unlike the New 52, which is where they were like, we're gonna take the best parts of this and just throw out the rest. The Amazons don't hate Diana, and they're not warmongering women. They're survivors. They survived slavery, they survived war, and then they live in peace on this island. In the New 52, the Amazons are absolutely bloodthirsty rapists. Like, that is legitimately something they thought was okay in the New 52, and that's a whole other story. But you can just tell there's a sense of sisterhood and camaraderie among the Amazons in the movie, which I think is much more appealing than these like super warriors always fighting, looking to kill men at any moment. And the way that they kind of curb the New 52, the New 52 is a mess. Like, there's some things that I like, but it's a mess, and I've learned over time that it just becomes more of a mess the more I think about it. But anyway, because the movie focuses on Diana's bond with her mother, her sisters, her aunts, and then like her relationships with people in man's world, it humanizes the elements of the New 52 that were otherwise alienating while you're reading it. So it's probably the best compromise we could have gotten, since they wanted to stick with the Zeus child origin story. It was like, well, if we're gonna go with that, it has to be about her mom, it has to be about her aunts, and it has to be about her relationships growing up with women and living in paradise. A little bit of the plot from New 52 is kind of thrown in there. The gods are trying to isolate Diana in the comics. They're trying to isolate her from the Amazons and humanity, and that's kind of similar to what Ares was trying to do when he was asking Diana to join him. And then of course, like, some of the abilities, like her ability to control lightning, which I guess is just a characteristics all Zeus's children share by way of movie lore. And there's more history to her being able to use lightning, and like the Van Bracers, which are her gauntlets that she wears. Being able to just like create a force so powerful it pushes someone back, which we saw in Batman v Superman. So that's kind of like where the movie's pulling from in the New 52, or where they're pulling from there. But I feel like the Perez Era elements are more upfront and more I heard some noise, we're just gonna ignore it. But the Perez Era is very more upfront and very more prevalent in the movie. So of course in the real area where you see the Perez Era influence is the Amazons. You know, they're these fully formed women who've sprung up from the sea, formed by the gods, sent to, you know, be peacemakers among men, and to show mankind compassion. And I think by sticking to this and sticking to the fact that they, you know, they were enslaved by Heracles at some point, that, you know, they are given shelter on Themyscira, it allows for the audience to believe in this concept of this feminine utopia in a way that anything from the New 52 you can't even imagine. You just, oh, this just seems like an island that never like adjusted to society and stuff like that. And they're like, no, this seems like a magical island sheltered from the rest of humankind that's still observing humankind, but they're like learning and creating and just living their best lives. Really, ladies, let's just travel to Themyscira for the holidays. That's what I want to do. In the very first arc of Perez Era comics, Ares is controlling generals to control war. The first arc in Perez runs is centered around Diana's first foray in mankind. She's trying to stop Ares from inciting war, but in the comics she doesn't quite know who Ares is, or that he's kind of really the main actor in this. She's just trying to stop people from killing each other. So it's very similar to Diana going out there and be like, well, I know Ares is out there, but I don't know where he is, so we're just gonna try and do everything we can to stop him. Perez Era, moving on past like his run, we see more of Antiope. Antiope as Hippolyta's sister, which is also based in, you know, the Greek mythology and lore there. But Antiope is Diana's aunt, and in the comics, Antiope leaves with a group of Amazons, and they form the Bana Magdal, and it's, you know, the tribe of Amazons in the Middle East. There's no Bana Amazons that we know of. You know, my hope is maybe they're out there in the Wonder Woman movie, but there's definitely you know, they have Artemis and Antiope and probably several other Amazons that are unfortunately unnamed, that are from the Bana tribe, included as just one big Amazonian Themysciran nation. I certainly hope maybe Patty Jenkins is just like, well, maybe we'll throw the Bana in there and it'll be really great. The Amazonian Senate, which is briefly shown in the movie when they're kind of all around interrogating Steve Trevor, you wouldn't necessarily know that upon watching it, that some of the Amazons that are talking to Hippolyta and pleading for her to like interrogate Steve are part of the Amazonian Senate. But when you read hold on, this little guy, the novelization, when you read it, you actually get names to faces, and some of the Amazons who have like these one line roles have names, and then you're like, oh, that's this character. And so the Amazonian Senate definitely exists. You know, they exist as guides for Hippolyta, and the decision making on the island occurs through them. So I thought that was pretty cool. It's not necessarily like an overt influence, but it is certainly there in the movie. Kind of beyond the Perez Era, just really that whole time period from like 85 into 2006, Themyscira as general as like this utopia was really kind of formed throughout this period of comics, and it very much influences the way the movie goes. Like the ideas of Themyscirans being an advanced race of warriors, you know, that spend years kind of looking at mankind from afar, mastering arts, diplomacy, language, stuff like that. They really, you know, Themyscira still feels like an ancient land, but at the same time they feel very advanced because they are not hindered by human nature, so to speak. You know, they're not inhibited by violence and anger and different stuff like that. They're just able to live in utopia and just learn things. And it's really cool to visualize that on screen in a sense that's not demeaning and just entirely feminine and enjoyable. And I thought that the movie just really captured that, and I wish they would have gone into it more. I recommend, if you have the DVD, watching some of the deleted scenes. There's just a little bit more there, and also all the background, the behind the scenes stuff, I think is like totally worth watching to kind of get a better sense of how much thought was put into this movie, that you don't always see with a lot of movies, because I don't think a lot of movies are necessarily have that high standards that everyone is expecting of it. And finally, for this kind of section, or not, well, not finally, but there's a few other things, but for the Themysciran influences, the idea of the purple healing ray, it's not necessarily like a purple healing ray like you see in the comics, but you have the healing baths that Diana sees Steve naked in, whatever. No one cares about that, but there's like that healing water it's the luminescent baths, which I think is, I want to believe it's the purple healing ray, so it's not like confirmed Easter egg purple healing ray. But yeah, that's kind of another influence. Oh man. So moving on from Perez Era, we have like the Gail Simone run on. I will not leave Steve alone. I will bully Steve if I have to. He deserves it. Okay? And I'm actually very nice to Steve in this review. I will have you know. It's the nicest I will ever be to Steve. Ever. In Gail Simone's run, the gods are actually killed off by the new gods, which are like the cosmic world gods, Granny Goodness, Darkseid, all of those guys. Yeah, basically they're like, we're gonna kill off the new gods and manipulate the Amazons. So it's like a brief moment, but definitely like the idea that there's no gods in Diana's like movie world, like they've all been killed off. My door? Sorry, I thought I heard someone knock on my door. So yeah, that kind of, and I would say like the Van Bracers were very much kind of represented in Gail Simone's run, especially like their ability to like create a force of wind almost to knock people back. And probably the idea of like the Amazons being this sisterhood and like they all helped raise Diana, and in a sense, not everyone had a hand in raising Diana, but they were all very much together as one nation, you know, helping Diana become the woman that she is. And then as far as Ares goes, I really believe they took the Injustice design. I mean, it's almost pretty much yeah, Steve, whatever. That is the mood forever. But yeah, I feel like the Injustice game and comic very much influenced the design of Ares in this movie. I mean, he's like pulling out knives from his from thin air and stuff like that, which is exactly what the Injustice character does in the game. So, video game nod there, I guess. I don't know, but that's like immediately I saw Ares, the CGI Ares that they had in there, and I was like, oh, that's the Injustice Ares. And finally, the Golden Age. The time period is definitely different. It's not World War II, it's World War I. But the idea that Diana has to go into man's world to stop a great war and to stop Ares and his cronies is very much like the central story of this movie. And also seeing Etta Candy and Dr. Poison and those characters, they were given a more mature spin, I think, except for Etta, who was kind of like, oh, laughable sidekick for 5 minutes, which I'm kind of very much mad about, and I hope they don't do that in the next movie. But yeah, like Dr. Poison is, she's Dr. Poison, they're very much shown as like zany and kind of silly because at this time the Golden Age didn't really need to be dark and serious. It just casually ignored all the problematic elements in it and just like, oh, we're cute, we're funny. But at least in the movie, they take Dr. Poison for what they are and as this like mad scientist and give them like this better, more mature, and in a way I wish they would do this in the actual comics, because you don't really get to see that much as this brilliant scientist that Diana's fighting against. Of course, what is it? Dr. Poison ends up being just kind of like a one-off villain that doesn't really contribute much in the end. So I feel like I wish they would have gone more into Dr. Poison as like this real major villain instead of focusing on Ares, because honestly I find Ares boring like every single time he's in movies. So, but I did like the idea of him being just like this proper British gentleman, no big deal. It's just Lupin from Harry Potter. We have nothing to, it was very obvious he was Ares from the start, but I thought that was kind of a good twist as far as Ares goes. Okay, Ares did have a sick mustache. I'm not gonna lie. That was a good mustache. Like, I gotta disagree with you there. I thought the mustache was good. I thought it was a good touch. And that's pretty much all as far as what I've noticed as far as comic book influence in the movies. I'm sure there's other areas, and this wasn't meant to be like an Easter egg. It was just meant to be like, oh, here are the stories that I think directly influenced the movie and I felt like played a major role. If you want an Easter egg video, you can find plenty of those, because I'm sure like everyone jumped on the wagon to make an Easter egg video. The only cool Easter egg I think in the Wonder Woman movie was that Chief was a demigod, so I thought that was great. Because in the Wonder Woman comics, Diana directly like interacts with other gods of other religions, so it's like that confirmation that there are other gods out there. I think is pretty cool. That implication, at least. Then, after comic book inspirations, there's a lot of real world inspiration for Wonder Woman, and a lot of historical inspiration, because it is a period piece as far as superheroes goes. Like you could almost, I wouldn't say it's a war movie, but it's still a superhero movie, but it has very much, it very much went for like the mature period drama, with like a dash of like superheroics and zaniness, which is this strange balance that works. The greatest success of the movie to me is how it conceptualizes the ideas of Themyscira if it existed in the real world. The idea of utopia seems like an impossible concept to a lot of us, but by pulling history, geography and the comics, the film crew and Patty and like everyone involved created this utopia that was isolated, and then created the world. The way I see it, especially as now that I've started to DM and started to create my own worlds, for me, I feel like they started with Themyscira and built the world from there. And I think that worked really well, because we got to understand Themyscira, and because we understand Themyscira, we were able to understand the rest of the real world. And I feel that I was a bit of really good world building design from the part of like the story and movie crew. I pretty much just like read through the art of the film book, which is this huge book that's down here. Oh my god. Yeah, so this thing is huge, which is why I'm not gonna keep it up there. But I really love it. It's a lot of money though, so I'm not saying go buy it. This thing is probably like $3 now, but this thing is like $30. But it definitely gives you a sense of everything that was going through Patty's mind, going through the set designers' minds in terms of building this believable world. Kind of central, like a central thing that I noticed throughout like all the comments that were included was this attention to focus on humanizing the characters within the movie, to make them feel like these would be people that existed at the time and that would exist, with regards to, you know, like the Amazons and stuff like that. And of course, the central theme and the central focus was to emphasize and celebrate womanhood and femininity. And it was entirely devoted to the idea of the woman. And I think that was like a very cool thing to see them talk about, and to see in like the design of the clothing and the design of Diana's, you know, disguises and of like the history behind the objects and weapons that she uses. And, you know, another real world inspiration was the actual historical Amazons. Because of this movie, and because I saw was it Connie Nielsen, who had the Amazons book, which is a historical book on, you know, the myths and the legends of the Amazons and who they were based off of. I decided to read it, and I started to learn more about, you know, the Scythians and all the nomadic tribes in Eurasian steppes and stuff like that. And that is very much how, by looking at like the actual history, they were able to idealize what the Themyscira would look like and what it would look like completely isolated. Let me grab the book. I need like a little cart that's just right here that I can grab. But yeah, I love this book. I read bits and pieces, and I reread it all the time because I just love the history of it. But you can definitely see, like, in the idea of like these warrior women, where they wanted to bring some of that realness to it through like the actual history and the archaeology of it. And I think because of that, it grounds who the Amazons are, and you can really feel like, oh man, maybe if I'm like, you know, Chloe Fraser and Nadine Ross, I could find Themyscira one day. That's an Uncharted reference for anyone that doesn't know. But anyway, you know, and then of course there's World War I. Yeah, they had the history of, you know, all the set pieces and all the design of the world, and you know, they could go back and look at like the photos and like the technology, and they visualized it and created it, which I think is just always amazing to see them make planes and like suits and weapons that look believable to the time period. And I just, and because they had like these historical groundings to it, you can see how Diana's stories exist within the entirety of World War I and within the entirety of history at the time. And there's a sense that even after Ares is defeated in the movie, that this is just a single story, that everything else that happened in World War I can very much still be happening and is happening while she is having her story. And that's why I always loved like these kind of historical fiction period dramas. And I think the movie does that really well, because I feel like, oh yeah, well, all this other stuff can still happen even if I like how it okay, pause for a second. I love how it flagged that. I bet I don't know how that was anything dangerous, but the auto mod was like, no, flagging that as inappropriate. 100% I have considered writing a clothing fic about them finding Themyscira. I'm not joking. I like think about it all the time. I'm like, oh, it'd be perfect. Naughty Dog, hit me up. Yeah, Automod does not like, yeah, Automod is a little homophobic, censoring Claudine like that, so, and censoring you like that. That's pretty funny. But yeah, you know, they have the set pieces that already exist, you know, the locations and the journey and the costumes and everything, just the contrast of Themyscira to the modern world, and Diana, modern day Diana to Diana's, you know, first journey into man's world, really just creates like a realistic, like, this feels like it happened. And regardless of how you feel about how strong or weak the superhero story was, there is that element of it being this historical fiction and feeling like it happened. Which I think is very much different than the way other superhero franchises approach movies, and I think I prefer it this way, but I'm not going to go into more detail about that. We'll leave that there. And finally, criticisms, because like I said, it's not a perfect movie. It's a very safe movie, and I feel like that is my biggest criticism overall, is that it heavily relies. Yeah, I thought, I agree, confusion grows. I thought that was really good, but because it's such a safe movie, there's times where you wish it would have taken a chance and try something completely balls to the walls crazy. But there's expectations, and it was the first movie, and they didn't want to be too crazy. They didn't want to throw all the stuff to the wall to begin with before understanding the kind of audience they were going to have for this movie. So I understand why they relied on Ares, and they relied on the Zeus origin story and stuff like that I think are very safe things about Wonder Woman that everyone can like. And they gotta appease the general audience, even though I believe the general audience is a lot smarter than most franchises and most why can't I think of the companies, like Warner Bros and stuff like that, think they are. Ares Ares to me is one of the weaker parts of the movie. He's entirely too predictable of a villain. He doesn't offer any meaningful conflict for the movie, because the main conflict in this movie was Diana versus human nature. Like, that was the main villain, was our violent natures was the main villain. Once Diana realizes that it's less about defeating Ares and it's more about offering a different path for humanity, like Ares becomes just like another, he's defeated, he's like, oh, you have no hold on me, you have no real, you're just gone. She basically did the Thanos stab to Ares and was like, goodbye, brother. And it's like goodbye, Ares, for good. God, I hope he does not show up in the sequel. I will hate that. I'm tired of Ares. Ares is done. Okay, quick movie thing, superhero movies have got to understand their third act and have to stop relying on these CGI fights. No more. Ares is done. Ares, we've heard about him. Jewel Wilson, I hope you do something exciting with him. Not that you're watching, but I feel like he's just so predictable and so done before, because he's the archetype of every villain, every superhero's first villain. But I could go on and on about how I think Ares is just utterly boring and useless, unless he's a strange ally to Diana, or just the weird half brother that hangs out with all the other gods. That to me is the best version of Ares, when he's just like, I don't really have any stakes here, I'm just gonna watch and just chill. So yeah, in the end, the movie was never about defeating Ares. It was about Diana learning to love mankind, because how is she going to keep coming back to fight? Why is she fighting in Batman v Superman? And those were the kind of answers that they wanted, the questions that they wanted to answer in the movie. So this will be the one moment, it's not a criticism, it's something positive. I didn't hate Steve Trevor in this movie. I thought they did a good job with Steve Trevor. I didn't mind the romance. I was like, do they really have to do the romance? They do, I guess. They don't really. But, you know, I get it. They wanted to do it. Play it safe. Steve Trevor, Diana, done. But, I honestly enjoyed Steve's portrayal, or Chris Pine's portrayal of Steve. There we go. Listen, it is positive to say that I have nice things to say about Steve. I usually don't. I think, honestly, I think Chris Pine's Steve Trevor is the first time I ever enjoyed the character. And I think it's because Patty was like, Steve is gonna exist solely as Diana's sidekick, as like he's heroic, but he only exists for the sake of Diana's story. And I think because he's not, he doesn't come off as a major creep or like some kind of self-insert male character, which sometimes I feel like writers like write Steve as if they're dating Diana. It just comes off as creepy and weird. He exists as a man for the woman's eye. Okay, in the Nathan Fillion's Steve Trevor in the animated Wonder Woman film is absolutely awful. Like, I don't understand what they're thinking. He is the very reason I hate Steve to begin with. Like, that is where it started, was that movie. He is very precious and very attractive, I will admit it. But yeah, I thought to me that was a highlight of the film. His sacrifice felt meaningful, and I understand he's coming back in the next one, so I'm curious how they're going to explain that or what their reasoning is for. If it's an anthology, I'm okay with that. That's fine. But when he said, I still really love when he said, I can save today, but you can save the world. And I think that perfectly kind of articulates how I wish Steve is portrayed in the comics, is that, he's like, I'm a hero, but you, like, I'm a good guy, but you are a hero, to Diana. And I really did enjoy that. The boat scene is good, but as I watch it more, I'm just kind of like, I feel like they could have taken that out and given us longer Themysciran scenes, or Themyscira scenes. So that's just my opinion. So it was funny, but again, I was like, man, they could have spent like 2 more minutes on Themyscira, and I could have learned more about the Amazons. That's really, which kind of leads on into the next thing, is like, I love the Amazons, and we literally only spend a finite amount of time with them in the movie. And they were able to perfectly capture Themyscira and give us the best representation of Amazonian society and culture in a way that we haven't really seen since freaking George Perez's run and like that whole era, like 80s era of comics and stuff like that. And the amount of like just amazingness that is on Themyscira, you just want to spend the whole movie there. And because there was such a short amount of time spent on the Themyscira, I think the portrayals of the Amazons and like Diana's sister was very poor. And it's like, yes, there are Amazons of color, but they were given one line or didn't even get speaking roles. I think that's, when the movie was first released, I didn't really see it as a criticism, but as I rewatch it, I kind of understand where the people who were saying this after the movie came out are coming from. I understand that feeling of being like, I exist, but I don't exist within the world because I don't have a voice. And I think that is a valid thing to criticize, and a valid thing to ask for more as we move on to the next Wonder Woman movie and other superhero films. And another thing, like, Diana's journey is a journey of solitude. The only other woman she really comes into contact with is Etta Candy, and I think that is a weakness to her first story because of how much emphasis they put on the idea that Diana grew up among women and in a society of sisterhood. So I I hope that kind of changes with there being a female villain, with there being, you know, which is, well, unless Maxwell Lord is the real villain, and that would make sense because Cheetah isn't a villain. But yeah, now that, like, you know, Barbara Ann Minerva's gonna be in there, and it's hinted that maybe Etta Candy's gonna be in there as like a different actress will be playing her. At least that's my hope, because they've added a couple people to the movie that I'm like, oh, I hope this person's Etta Candy. So I definitely hope that Diana is gonna get to talk to women in the Times, not like only on Themyscira. Like, she needs to be able to talk to other women, and I think she needs to make those friendships, and those need to be significant in the movie moving forward, because there's a great desire for it. So, you know, that really kind of sums up North Evans. Those seem like stereotypes. I'm thinking. I thought Chief's portrayal was very well done. And I feel like because they don't have a huge role in the movie, they can come off across as stereotypes. Personally, I didn't see them as stereotypes because they had characteristics that, you know, they had characteristics and traits that weren't that made them unique. You know, what is it? Sammy's want to be an actor, and like him trying to fight like the fact that he has to live as a stereotype and be this person to other people to help everyone achieve their goals. And I think that's a very real struggle, and almost a way kind of breaks the fourth wall in terms of like, yeah, I'm just a character actor. And I thought they did a good time with Sammy. And then again, Chief, like having an actual Native American actor was a big deal. But I thought, you know, he's not like he was a smuggler, yes, but he wasn't like this cheapskate that's just gonna like leave, and like he didn't, you know, he's not a drunkard, you know, those kind of stereotypes that follow Native Americans in film was not present. You know, he was seen as like this quiet, very stoic and very trustworthy person, and someone that, you know, you would like, I feel like Diana would call upon at any moment, you know. And I really like that, and also finding out that he's a demigod, and that they paid attention a lot to bringing in someone that could speak, bringing someone who is Blackfoot, and bringing someone in to represent this character, that I thought they did well. I wish he would have had more roles, because I think because he has such little so little lines, he just kind of like, he's just the quiet tracking person, and so in that sense, that yes, it is a stereotype, but I think it's significant in the sense of like the way the actor portrayed it. No, and that's fair. I could see how it would come across for you like that. So I mean, I'm not 100% right on this, and right about not seeing them as stereotypes. Because again, like, you know, it's not like he really spoke Arabic at all. And no, I'm not saying like it's not okay. The bar is low when like the bar is he a terrorist? No, great. Oh my god, amazing portrayals of Arab men in movies. Like, you know, the bar is low, so I understand that it's not the best portrayal, but it's not the worst portrayal. It's just it's an okay portrayal. So like I do understand. I just really liked the character because, you know, I hope I see him again as a Black Hawk, in as far as DC Universe lore goes. So so yeah, I thought they did a better job than what was expected, if that makes sense. And then I really hate how I can't remember the character, the the other character, the last character. Why can't I remember his name? I just know he's the guy with PTSD, which is a terrible reason to remember someone for. Charlie, yes. There we go. I totally remember that. Also, Phenomehots, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. And welcome to the Themysciran Agenda. But yeah, I like Charlie. I like that they kind of included that, you know, that part that he couldn't fire his gun because of, you know, the you know, for the PTSD that he suffered from and like the casualties of war kind of thing. But again, these were all briefly touched on, so like they briefly touched over these characters, and so there's not a lot of depth to them. But yeah. So were they stereotypes? For the most part, yes and no. I didn't feel like it was the worst stereotypes, especially considering that Wonder Woman has like a terrible history with representation of people of color in the stories, in her stories. I think they did a good job there. They did a safe job, and I'm okay with that. Room for improvement. Let's just say it like that. Okay, and then I saw your question, Mars, and I didn't forget it. I wanted to get that question out of the way. But as far as like expectations and hopes for Wonder Woman 84, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about as like my closing statement. So not really closing statement, but like closing part to this episode. You know, my hope is that they take what worked from the first movie and improve upon it. You know, I don't want a rehash of Wonder Woman 2017 in 2019. We don't need Ares for one. Just like I feel like if we can get rid of Ares, we're okay. We're in good shape. You know, definitely give more depth to the side characters. You know, Etta Candy, I feel like was just a complete stereotype, and just there for like the comedic laughs, which really sucks because I love Etta Candy, and I don't think she deserves that kind of treatment every time she shows up. You know, give her. She's not really. I wouldn't say like they were sidekicks, but you know, give more depth to the characters that are helping Diana along to her journey. I don't want Cheetah to be on the same level of depth as Sammy and Charlie and Chief and Etta. I want Etta to have, I want Cheetah to have like this depth of character that rivals Diana in Wonder Woman 84. Yes, and again, I did touch briefly on this, but I 100% agree. Stronger relationships between Diana and other women in the film is a must. I think that will make the movie stand out and make it so much different than anything else that is out there. Yeah, excluding Amazons, that is fair. Yeah, as much as I would like Diana to go back to Themyscira and like just hang out with her sisters and stuff like that, and meet and reunite with her girlfriend that's on Themyscira that she obviously left behind. She has someone waiting at home for her. I 100% believe it. But yeah, definitely relationships with women in the world, in our world, in man's world, because in a way it's kind of like nice to see women be friends with Diana, because when you're reading the comics you're kind of like, I wish Diana was my friend, and maybe that's just me thinking it because I love Wonder Woman, but you want to see the fact that I have friendships with women, and you know, I would like to see Wonder Woman have friendships with other women too. So I think that's very much fair. You know, and those are, and obviously just like a solid portrayal of Cheetah. And I think if they can nail Diana's opposite, they can nail the movie. And just giving Cheetah the chance to really shine in the way she's recently shined in the comics. And I hope they're pulling from they pulled Greg Rucka aside and were like, hey, we need help writing our script. Let's do this. And they just rolled with it. But that I would say those are kind of really what I'm hoping for. No, none of that damn third act CGI either. Like let's let's bite the bullet and just stop with that. We don't need these giant monsters. But yeah. And I hope the gods are alive somehow. I hope they come back, because I want to see Athena be a bitch, and you know, I want to see Artemis and all of them. Like, yes, no, like this is all true. This is all stuff that I've thought about before. Like, why would she focus on making a relationship with a guy when she's grown up with women, has been raised by women? Why would she not seek out the friendships with other women in man's world? It's just, it's weird. It's obviously, and it's probably because men are always writing Wonder Woman, and so there's like, I don't understand female friendships. Why would I write about it? And I wish guys would kind of understand it, that it's pretty damn important that we have friendship with women. And then we have this camaraderie among women. Good thing is, I don't think 184 is too much to prove. That is my hope, is that because they've, you know, they've crossed the bridge, they've made it over the hill, they, you know, they're able to take some liberties with the character and with the stories, and kind of take a few chances. I mean, I wouldn't say Scarlett Johansson can really fight in the Marvel movies, and that the choreography is very good, so I would like to see Black Widow kick some serious ass. But again, I don't know enough about the character to really have hopes for it, like I would for Wonder Woman. And Captain Marvel, again, is kind of the same thing. It's like, I think they still do have a lot to prove, because, you know, they're trying to find their niche within the Marvel universe. And I hope that Captain Marvel isn't too much like, well, we're just gonna bank off what Wonder Woman did, and then everyone's gonna be like, well, that's great, and then forget about Wonder Woman. That's like my hope, that they don't do that. And I just want those movies to find its own niche and own fan base. Please, just stop. Don't steal my... Don't take anything from Wonder Woman. Well, I mean, Black Widow needs to be a spy thriller, in my opinion. But again, I don't have enough knowledge about Black Widow to really say otherwise. I just remember her briefly from the cartoons that I used to watch. And that she was like this kind of double agent spy working behind enemy lines. And at this point, I don't even know if I'm gonna watch Black Widow, because I don't really want to watch anything with Scarlett Johansson in it, you know, unless they recast her. No, I feel like Scarlett Johansson effectively like ruined my expectations for Black Widow at all, or any kind of One Desire, and I really can't stand her as an actress anymore, for a number of reasons, but yeah. So, I think it'd be awesome if Wonder Woman 84 was like the Dark Knight of Wonder Woman films. I like Dark Knight, but like, I think Wonder Woman's better than Dark Knight, like hands down. But in terms of like cultural significance and like that movie that everyone just won't shut up about, I want Wonder Woman 84 to be that movie. Oh yeah, and I definitely think it won't be a generic sequel, because it has Cheetah, and I love Cheetah, but also because of this whole anthology. Like, from what Patty Jenkins is saying, you know, it's an anthology, so each story is kind of singular, and we can just focus on that story at that time. And I think that's a good way to do comic book movies, because they're situated into arcs. Comics are situated in arcs, and you can break down, oh, these 5 issues make up this story. Well, this one movie makes up this one story, and because of the nature of comics, where writers come in and artists change, and there's not always one person writing for a very long time, it makes sense that it's an anthology. So who do I need to kill? I'll do it. I'll do it if I have to. Dark Knight, I'm coming for you. I'm done. I'm done with the Dark Knight. I'm done with people putting it as #1 on their list. No, it ends with Wonder Woman 84. You heard it here first. Dark Knight is getting his first place spot knocked out. Yeah, no, I think it's time for us to stop talking about Dark Knight, personally. Like, not just, like, not necessarily within the talk show, but, like, in general, as, like, we've moved well beyond the Dark Knight, and in terms of great superhero storytelling. Oh, oh my god. I don't want to kill anyone from the Wonder Woman cast. But, okay, that, you know, that does make sense. But I hope that Wonder Woman 84 gets right there. Like, I understand, you know, you can't replace Heath Ledger's performance, and I certainly do not want any of the actors to, like, actually die. I just meant, like, fan-wise, like, fanboys need to calm down. It's time for them to stop talking about Dark Knight. Who's Batman? And, you know, I don't know Batman on this show. This show's about Wonder Woman. That's my opinion on Batman. No, I like Batman sometimes. Sometimes. Superman's better, but okay, whatever. It's not a... I hate the Joker, so... I will admit, like, the Lego Batman movie is pretty damn funny, though. I mean, Joker Batman is kind of, like, super prevalent in the comics, too, so I'm not surprised. Actually, I know people who ship, like, legitimately ship Batman and Joker, and it's just like, okay, moving on, goodbye. No. I don't understand it. I'm not gonna try to understand it. It's like people who stand Moira. I don't understand it. But yeah, those are kind of expectations for Birds of Prey, Batgirl, Supergirl. Supergirl, I honestly have no, like, I don't know what to expect because I don't know anything about the movie. And the same with Birds of Prey, in a way. It's like we know details, but we don't necessarily know story, and I can't believe anything that comes out of that freaking heroic Hollywood site. Like, you know, honestly, fuck them and their fan cast. You know, a lot of times, like, the rumors that they're hearing aren't even true. So, for me, for all these movies, is one, don't let Joss Whedon anywhere near any of them. Like, that's just dumb and bad. Why did they ever do that? So that's, like, my normal thing is, like, just keep Joss Whedon away and we're good to go. And two, for me, I'm just gonna wait till I hear more information. And I feel like that's the best thing to do because I don't want to get all these expectations for Birds of Prey and these expectations that we're gonna see this, and this, when in reality it's not gonna happen. It's like when they bring characters to the CW and people have all these high expectations and they end up not being good portrayals of the characters. A major bullet. Oh yeah, it's honestly way too early. I want to have so much hope for Birds of Prey, especially. I just want, like, all of this to happen and all these characters to be present, but, like, you know, it's kind of like everyone hoping Catherine Renwick is going to be Black Canary. You know, I want to manage my expectations and just be open-minded to whatever happens. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. Things are so far out in the development cycle with regards to these superhero movies. Like, they have these planned out years from now, and I can't even focus on next week. So I think I can manage my expectations and wait. So in terms of kind of going back to the Wonder Woman movie, I've pretty much wrapped up everything that I wanted to talk about for this movie review. If you guys have final questions, you know, continue to ask them, and we'll keep talking. But there's really exactly, we haven't even got to Aquaman yet, and it feels like I've been waiting forever for Aquaman. I mean, we really have, but like it just feels like these last few months we've gotten a trailer, and it's like, oh my god, please give me more. But yeah, that's pretty much. Oh, I forgot to mention my sources. I feel like it's always important to mention my sources to you guys in case, you know, it's important to mention sources mostly because I feel like it's not official university research, but it is still research, and you got to give credit where credit's due, and you got to show people where they can find things and where they can learn more about it. I mean, that's fair. I like Ezra Miller, but I think it'd be interesting. I think it would be interesting if they did a CW movie. It's okay for you to say that, but I will say that in terms of me talking about Gal Gadot on this show, I won't be talking about her too much. You know, I enjoy her as Wonder Woman, but in terms of like her politics and stuff, it's a big area of conflict with me, and I feel like I'm not the best person to talk about it, and I feel like I need to be honest with y'all in terms of we won't really talk a lot about Gal Gadot on the show for a lot of reasons, because of my own political beliefs, to put it frankly. But yeah, Phenomenauts, I really like Ezra Miller, but you know, I understand why you would want yeah, I've kind of grown over time with regards to Gal, but anyway, back to Phenomenauts comment about Grant. Is it Grant Gustin? Anyway, CW Flash. We'll leave it at that because I don't know the actor's name. I think it'd be kind of cool if like CW finally did their own movie, not necessarily like straight to TV movie, like an actual movie in theaters. I think that'd make a lot of people happy. I think they should try it. As far as a Flash movie, I hope they get to a Flash movie. I feel like every time we hear about a Flash movie, it's like, oh, maybe it'll happen. So I hope they finally do it. I hope Shazam has enough hype that they feel like, okay, I think we can do a Flash movie. No, that is definitely fair, and there's a lot more material to go with on the CW. Even though I'm not a huge fan of CW, like I understand why a lot of people like him. And I don't know if they'd ever do that. Probably not, but again, that's why I suggested like a CW movie where like they could have all the CW actors doing their own thing, but like in a bigger scale. That if you feel that way, you feel that way. Again, I have very conflicting views about the CW, but I feel like they are not pertinent to like the topic of my show and what I focus on. Yeah, it's been a movie going on for years now. Why haven't you been watching it? That's funny. So yeah. I'm trying to think if I covered I pretty much covered everything in my movie review. I think we're gonna go ahead and call it here though. I do like, you know, if there's a few more final questions, I definitely do like talking with you guys, and maybe that's something we can kind of do. And actually, I've been thinking about maybe doing like a Q&A, kind of like a week or 2 weeks after like a main episode, so we can ask questions like that, like the ones you guys are asking, because I think they're very important for the discussion of like just comics in general and all this kind of like different different nerd things and stuff like that, and I think that'd be very fun. But so I do the Themysciran Agenda once a month. Because I work, it's sometimes super difficult to manage my time well, especially since I do regular gaming streams. But my hope is to kind of increase the amount of times that I do the Themysciran Agenda, and maybe we're not necessarily talking about Wonder Woman, like a specific topic where I devote like a script to and stuff, but we're talking about, like, you're asking me questions about Wonder Woman related subjects, and maybe since this is doing fairly well in my eyes, we'll start doing like a Wonder Woman Q&A. Yeah, you have a good night, Confusion Grows. I appreciate you keeping me company with all these questions. I really do like talking about this stuff. I'm glad you stopped by, and I'm glad you followed Phenomenhots. I definitely want more people to like learn about it and have fun and learn about Wonder Woman and enjoy Wonder Woman as much as I do. So that's really why I do this. I love you too, Mars, and I'm excited because we're gonna be seeing each other soon. It's been 1,000,000 years. But yeah, I definitely want to kind of ramp things up and keep things going and make it interesting and fun. You know, that's I totally did not talk about my sources. We'll do that before I leave. Wow, I didn't do that. I got completely sidetracked. But but yeah, definitely I'll be asking on Twitter what the next subject's going to be about. I have a few ideas for topics for episode 5. But we'll definitely make it fun and make it interesting. Big screen Donna Cassie and Nubia would be awesome. But yeah, I will edit the video so it starts kind of where we start talking about the subject and upload it to YouTube so you guys can watch it again if you missed something. And then I'll upload my summary so you guys have a written kind of understanding of what I'm talking about, because I know a few people have asked me about doing the summaries, and so I'm going to keep doing them. Before I go, I just want to go over my sources. The Wonder Woman movie, of course. Who is Wonder Woman by Alan Heinberg, which was his run on Wonder Woman. The Wonder Woman New 52 comics, Perez comics, all those comics. I didn't go into detail for them, but I did kind of glance over them and reference them. The official Wonder Woman movie novelization, this little guy right there. The art and making of the film, of the Wonder Woman film, which was the big book that I showed earlier. And then, of course, the Amazons by Adrienne Mayer, which is the historical Amazons, and that goes over like the archaeological aspects of the Amazons. So those were kind of my sources for this one. It's different every time because I do different research, but that pretty much concludes the episode. Thank you guys for joining in. Again, thank you Phenomenhots for the follow. Thank you Mars, Roy, Confusion Grows for joining me, and thank you everyone for the questions. I thought that was really fun. Next episode will air. This month was a little different because of family birthdays, but next month in September, we're shooting for September 27th. That's the last Thursday of September. We're definitely going to stick with that. If I end up doing other things, I will let you guys know on Twitter. Be sure to follow me at Llama Amelia, and that's pretty much it. I will see you guys Sunday for a video game stream, and then I will see you guys last Thursday of the month on the 27th for the 5th episode of the Themysciran Agenda. Thank you guys.